Union, how do you fight against 3.2 million members?
There are a lot more parents than there are union members in this country. And it's by rallying parents and pulling them together. I mean, some of my best material we get from the left. One of the things that's very annoying to me or very concerning to me is how the right will sometimes look at the left and say, oh, well, they've captured the institutions and somehow they get villainized for doing what smart things.
Great. Credit to them.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And so, when Tina and I look at how do you build an army, when I looked out at a school, when I would sit on the dais at the school board and I would look at the audience and there would be a vote that would be coming up, the union would come out in mass. They'd have red shirts on and they would have their voices heard. And Patrick, I'd go into a meeting and there would be other board members and I would think I would know where we all stood on an issue because if it was a bargaining issue or something, there are only a couple meetings that you can get together as school board members and have conversations behind closed doors. But bargaining or litigation, those are two areas. And so I would, have an idea of what I thought school board members were going to do. But having that many people sitting there and I've had change thrown at me, but having that many people pressuring you and paying attention to your vote, it changes people's votes. And so, while the unions were there, guess who wasn't there? The parents. And so that's why Moms for Liberty, blue t-shirts, you have to get out there. It's not enough to just get people elected. You then need to be the army on the ground that is there for them and supporting them when they need to make some hard decisions. Otherwise, if you're not having your voice heard, it seems like maybe you don't care. And so I have no shame in taking the left's best ideas and then using those. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I don't think this is an easy fight because if you sit there and you think about the organizations the left and the right have, let's just say, and imagine you're at the table. Let's make a visualization. They're negotiating. You got the conservatives on the right and you got the left on the left. Okay, they're the liberals on the left. They're sitting there and they're like, okay, let's do draft pick. You go first. All right, we'll take the voting block of military veterans. Whatever. You can have them. We'll take schools. Shit, that was a good one. We should have taken that. Okay. We'll take churches. I don't care. It's fine. We'll take mainstream media. Oh, shoot. Okay. What do we take? I don't know what to take next. Don't worry. Take your time. We'll take the next pick. What's your next pick? We'll take universities. We'll one by one. We'll take social media companies, all ran by the left except for one, and that guy, we're going to demonize him. You guys are going to forget about him, and we're going to make his life a living hell. By the way, we just converted one of his kids into a trans, part of the LGBTQ community. Trust me, we're going to make his life a living hell. We're going to convert one by one. So they have the chips, like you're playing Monopoly, and let's just say there's only 20 properties you can own. They own 17 of them. The right owns 3 of them. And they've been quietly sitting on the sideline and doing their own thing, thinking John Galt's going to come save them. And Atlas Shrugged's going to build a small little community that they're all going to live together. And then now they don't want to put up their monies. My suggestion is the following. I think, for those who are sitting there concerned, show up with your money. Show up and support organizations that you believe, can do something about it. Yesterday, it's so funny. We're sitting there looking at, talking on fast fashion. I don't know if you're familiar with fast fashion or not. Fast fashion is H&M, Zara, Fashion Nova. Sure. These are the guys that take a expensive $600 shirt and they build it in, whatever country that, they can work it as a sweatshop, and they get kids working at this place, and they'll make it for 50 cents and they'll sell it for $17, but it's not going to last a long time. It's horrible. Then the data's come back up and shows in the last 20 years, do you know in the last 20 years, we have 400% more clothes in our wardrobe than we did 20 years ago? 400% more, Crazy. Okay? And we wear our clothes 36% fewer times than we did 15 years ago. And on top of that, do you know how many pounds of clothes we throw away every year? Crazy stat. 81.5 pounds of clothes we throw away every flipping year. So guess what? 80% of the stuff in the closet you have, you wasted your money. You're not going to wear it. I do that all the time. I'm like, I'm never going to wear this, ever. You wear it one time, you wash it, size gets smaller, I can't wear it again. What's the point? Then the conversation came about, maybe we ought to support brands that we support, okay? That brand, they wear Moms for Liberty. Guess what? I'm going to go buy Moms for Liberty shirt because I'm buying stuff that I support. Great. This is what I like, what these guys do. Hey, love your work. It's hard work. We the We, the parents, go for it. I'm going to go buy that shirt. Great. I'm going to support these types of brands. I think more and more people need to get a little bit more vocal on supporting brands out there that will make a contribution right after this ourselves as an organization. We'll make a contribution to your organization. But I think starts with that, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is tough. This is not an easy job. It's very hard. You're not liked by the unions because you're annoying to them. Okay, You annoy them. You make their life a living hell. And I can tell you from the mothers that I spoke to in Glendale, we were looking at doing a podcast a few months ago when the issues were very, very hot, is they're not liked. The way they're treated in these snobby people are sitting like this and just like, okay, your time's up. Next, get out of here. Boom. It's like almost like the mob. The Italian mob is running it and they control. Even the mobsters were more respectful than what these guys are, the way they're treating their parents. So you don't have an easy job. You're not doing this because you're trying to be a billionaire or millionaire. You're doing this because you got 4 kids. And
that's right.
They're between 12 to 19 years old. It's not an easy job to have today. And I applaud you. So for the viewers that are listening, I think it's important for us to support as well, because the left, if there's one thing they're very good at, they are very, very good at supporting the organizations that are pushing the agendas that they believe in. Oh my gosh, they're united on it. The one thing about those guys, they're more about their political party first before America. I believe they're more about political party first before America, but they're losing. They're not gaining. They're able to do what they're doing purely through control, but even the people that control don't necessarily agree with what they're doing right now.
And they have the government behind them. To be clear, I think people need to understand this is a global issue as well. UNESCO, the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. If you look at those Sustainable Development Goals, the NEA, that union that you brought up, they have a curriculum that is connected to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that they are pushing into our schools. And so Tina went to, Jordan Peterson had that ARC conference in London. Tina was speaking to someone in Kenya. They were talking about the comprehensive sexuality education that was happening in Kenya. That's the same comprehensive sexuality education that's happening in America. None of this is a coincidence, Patrick. This is a real effort to destabilize the family and to put the government in place of the family. They want our kids to not be able to read, to write, to do math. They're not concerned about that.
Why do you think?
Because then they can control the kids. Then they are driving a wedge between the parent and the child, and the children will be reliant on the government for everything. Part of the CDC. So
you think that's the motive?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The schools, think about it. Is there any other, if you think about on the grand scale of schools across the United States, government buildings, let's talk about immigration for a second. What's happening with the schools and illegal immigrants across the country? Eric Adams got up and said, schools are community assets. He said that the day after they had closed that school in Brooklyn and sent all the kids home to do virtual learning so that they could use the schools as a shelter. You remember that? New Hanover County, North Carolina. Our moms in New Hanover stopped a special needs school from being closed and being turned into an illegal immigrant shelter. Oh yeah, it's happening everywhere. The schools are considered, as Eric Adams said, a community asset, and they think they can do whatever they want with them.
But it's backfiring because when he, what's the story, Rob, where...
the luxury apartments that the residents fought back, and so Eric Adams reversed his decision to house the migrants in luxury apartments because people in the community need that housing more.
Yeah, I just saw that they said something like over 50% of hotels in New York are being used as shelters. Right?
Oh, yeah. And again, but this is the part, though. So here's my concern. Here's my concern on what I think is going to end up happening. I think what's going to end up happening is bluer states are going to get bluer. Red states are going to get redder. I think that's what's going to happen. So, the race is going to be for the purple states, because a person's going to sit there and they're going to be like that one video that came out where the mother's like, I have a transgender child and I just don't feel safe here because the puberty blockers that he needs, he's suicidal. I feel more safe for raising my kids in California. Go to California, right? But guess what? That's just making the disparity between political ideology wider and wider and wider and wider. So one is eventually going to get to a point that they're going to be like, dude, you're left, go to these states. You're right, go to these states. then that could even lead to what many people say, it'll never happen. Civil war will never happen in America. It's never going to happen. That is just not possible. It's already happening. It's just not a war yet. It's just civil battle. It's civil argument. It's civil debates. It's civil. But eventually, if this tension keeps piling up more and more and more, and you're trying to impose nonsense arguments to people that just want to go out there and work and support their family, then take care of their kids, you're going to create a wedge, and it's already happening. The levels of division that people are having. I was having a conversation with a guy named, Andy yesterday. We had a very, very good conversation, and I was telling him that, you went on News Nation, I think, with Cuomo, right? You talked to him. Chris and I are talking a lot nowadays. It's a very weird relationship that we're building. But you know what happens? We'll get on a call, and we'll argue for 90 minutes, 2 hours, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then it's like, how's the family? Kids, everybody good? Okay, I'll see you next week. All right, sounds good, man. All right, buddy, take care. We don't have that today.
Right. And Moms for Liberty, we're not taking any stars off of the flag. National divorce, there is no future for America in national divorce. But the interesting thing Cuomo said was talking about how much money has left New York, that there are a lot of rich people.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah. And so what does that mean then? Who's going to support what's happening in New York and the cities? The rest of America is going to end up picking up the bill for that. And that's a real concern. But we're not taking any stars off of the flag. We have chapters in California. California parents are fighting back. New York parents, when we went into New York, I had the Manhattan Borough President, Adam Levine, 25 degrees outside, Patrick. I invited him upstairs to be on this panel. We do town halls. They're amazing town halls. I'd love to have you at one sometime. And they're called Giving Parents a Voice. When I bring together elected officials, we'll bring people together who have different opinions about things. I invite Adam Levine to come up. I invited Chancellor Banks, Eric Adams to come to be a part of this panel to talk about New York City schools. Can we talk about proficiency rates for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so only about a third of kids in America are reading on grade level. That's according to the NAEP scores, the National Assessment for Educational Progress 2022. 17% of Black students, only 21% of Hispanic students, less than half of white students. New York City, only 11% of Black students are reading.
6% less than national average.
Only 11%. They spend
And the mayor is Black.
They spend $40,000 per year on each child's education. So if there's an average of 25 kids in a class, that's $1 million that they are spending every year on a classroom, and only 11% of kids can read, and they have a cap on charter schools. 23 of the top 25 schools in New York City are charter schools. Why are we blocking education innovation?
Why are they?
The unions. The unions, absolutely. The unions are running our cities. The unions are running our schools, and we have to take them out. So when you talk about the money and the membership, we are building an army to combat the unions and we the parents. We have the numbers. We just need people to get brave, have their voices heard, and get involved. That's it. Get off the comfy couch, or else I'll see you in the gulag. That's the way I always feel about it. I'll have a donor say, I want to give you money, but, I'm afraid that, my name might be out there. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll see you in the gulag then, because, that's where we're going to be if people don't get brave now. Now is the time to stand. I truly believe in my heart that we were given an amazing opportunity during COVID to save our country. I call it COVID lemonade. It was awful. I know there were people that died. And we handled it horribly as a country. We didn't protect the people that we should have, and we closed schools and hurt kids. But Patrick, what an opportunity to pull back the curtain on the corruption. And now we have a chance to save America. And we're going to take every single chance we get.
I love that. And by the way, at the end of the day, how are people judged? When I'm talking to Bill Maher and he says Newsom is a winner, and I said, based on what though? Based on what data? If there is one thing that doesn't lie, is numbers. And when numbers show in a city or a state that the way your students are performing is absolutely horrendous compared to the national average, you don't have an argument. Very simple. Here's the data for you, buddy. You guys are doing a terrible job. By the way, the one question I have for you that I wonder if it's happening or not, Rob, do you know what, out of all the industries, so we did a video today that just went live, right when we went live, this video went live on Valuetainment. The video is about childcare. Let me give you the exact title of it. The childcare crisis, why parents are going broke raising their kids, okay? So one of the things that, the childcare industry, the profit margins are 1%. They don't make a lot of money. And they're the lowest paid jobs in America, like if you go to school. And on top of that, they're the only job, I believe, that, from 4 years ago, their salary actually decreased, not increased. It's the only one that the salary decreased. Now, parents are also sitting there. They're like, man, I can't afford, I got to do something with my kids. They're losing everything they have when it's coming down to, do I put them in private school? Do I do this? Do I do that? I want you to see this chart. So check this out. So this is employment within the U.S. within the U.S., childcare industry is below its pre-pandemic trend. So if you look at it in 2015, around 880,000, 870,000 actual employment went all the way up to 2020 at around 1,050,000, right? COVID happens. Guess what? I don't need childcare industry. Why? Because I'm doing it myself. I'm staying home. I'm not working, right? So it dropped from 1,050,000 to 680,000, okay? Almost every industry is fully recovered, including restaurants and hospitality. The only one that isn't is childcare. And look at this year. Look how many jobs are like fewer than it was 4 years ago, 3 years ago. 154,000 fewer jobs. Are you noticing yourself a dramatic increase in parents that just simply have given up on the educational system and they're doing homeschooling?
Yeah, I actually saw you talking about this in an interview, and you were saying, parents were like, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought. I think parents were very intimidated, but the public education system, or education in general, wanted you to be intimidated. They use a lot of acronyms. They do not invite parents in as partners. They don't want you to know what your kids are being taught. Public schools would just like you to stay out of the work that they do. Just let them handle it, right? Well, they're not doing a good job. But I think for a lot of parents, the idea of homeschooling and being responsible for their kids' education was a little intimidating. And then COVID happened, and they're watching their kids on the Zoom, and they're saying, oh my gosh, I thought my kid was doing better, right? They were getting A's, and they're not really doing that well, I'm concerned. Or I can't believe this toxic curriculum that my kids are being taught, or that my child isn't ever reading a whole book, or just excerpts of books. Just to be clear, kids are not reading chapter books in public school anymore. They're reading little excerpts from books and then being asked about context. It's very, very concerning. And so you're right. Then parents said, okay, maybe I should try homeschooling. I mean, I certainly can do better than this. And so I think a lot of parents, you're right, are taking a step back and really assessing, what are we spending money on? Where can we cut back? And can we, take part in our kids' education and homeschool? And yeah, a ton of them are. Just in New York City, in District 2, they had an enrollment of 70,000 students. They're down to 40,000
Get
now.
out of here.
No, the kids, I mean.
And how long? From 70 to 40?
I don't have the exact number.
Is it 4 years? Is it
yeah.
okay.
It's
so it's not like 20 years.
No.
Okay.
It's dramatically dropped within the last, 5 years or something. I mean, there is a huge movement of parents that are really questioning what are my children getting out of education, and do I like it? Now, here's what public education wants. A couple things, right? So you have the schools close, and you have the union saying we need more money. I want to be very clear with you. We do not have a funding problem in American education. We have a priorities problem in American education. We need to get back to the basics and stop paying consultants like Ibram X. Kendi $25,000 to do a professional development talk for 40 minutes. That happened. Charlotte Mecklenburg, you know how much money that guy has made off of public schools? The anti-racist guy. Yeah.
This guy.
That guy.
Who paid him $25,000?
Charlotte Mecklenburg Public Schools, $25,000 for a $40,000 Zoom talk. Zoom. Not even in person. That's quite the grift he's got going, don't you think?
I mean, listen. if they're paying this guy that kind of money to do what? How to be a young anti-racist.
Right.
Wow, what an uplifting book.
Yeah, it's lovely. But so again, we need to get back to the basics in American public schools. It's not a money issue that we have. It's a priorities issue. And that's very important for people to understand. We'll spend over $840 billion on public education this year in federal and local dollars.
What does the union fear the most? For example, I'm on Piers Morgan. He asks me, what does Iran fear the most? And I said, Iran, the Hezbollahs, the guys at the top, the Khamenei's, they fear women, they fear kids, they fear sanctions. Because if they have a bad economy, they don't know what to do with that, right? So those are three things they fear. What does the union fear?
The union fears parents. The union fears parents getting involved, running for school board and seeing behind the education curtain, asking real questions about transparency and accountability. Because the truth is that your kid might be getting an A, but do you know what that A means? You don't, right? You're looking at a report card. Is your child actually learning how to read? Well, maybe they can read the back of a cereal box, but can they open up Call of the Wild? Can they actually read a book? Can they understand and comprehend what that book says and analyze it? No. The answer is no. I challenge every parent, get a chapter book. Go online and look up quality chapter books for a child that is your children's age and get it and sit down with your child and have them read out loud to you. I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked. I'll be honest with you, Patrick, even me. During COVID, when I took a step back and I wanted to help my children and really see where they were as far as learning, I gave my son the book, The Call of the Wild, and we sat down to read it together. And I was really disappointed in his ability to be able to engage with that book. And I realized that I had a lot of work to do. So we talk a lot about parental rights. I think it's also important to talk about parental responsibilities. But the public education system, as I said, wants you out. I'd like to tell you, if I could, about community schools.
Can we go a little bit deeper in this?
Yeah,
Let's stay on this. I'm going to make a note. We'll go to community schools. So what do unions fear? So number one, parents. What else? What else do they fear?
They fear losing control of school boards.
But how would they lose? If more parents ran, they lose control of the boards. How many boards do they not have? Like out of how many total boards do they have? How many do they not have control over?
Yeah, so there's about 13,000 school districts across the United States of America. I would say that they probably have the control of at least 90% of them.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so, those are the people that bargain with the union, right?
Yeah. I saw a number the other day that for every English teacher in public school, out of every dollar they give to a political party, 98% of it goes to the Democratic
100%.
Party. I think science was 97%. The only one that was somewhat reasonable was math was 87-13. 87 went to Dems, 13%, which makes sense to have the 90% here. Okay, so one is parents, two is losing control of boards. Looks like they got a monopoly with the school boards. What else?
They need the government to continue to expand their influence. And that's really, I can give you a very specific example, which is the CDC. The CDC is very important to the unions right now. When Randi Weingarten was called before Congress, before the House, to speak about learning loss, she said, we need community schools. We need to take care of what they call the whole child. So there's a program called the whole school, whole child, whole community model. It's called WISC. Everybody should go look it up. What they want to do is put health clinics into schools. They want to put washers and dryers into schools. Whirlpool has a whole program where they're putting washers. Oh, yes, that is it. Absolutely. And so they want schools to be a community hub.
The Education Public Zone calls for greater alignment that includes integration and collaboration between educational leaders and health sectors to improve each child's cognitive, physical, and social, emotional development. Public health and education serve the same children, often the same settings. The whole WISC model focus on the child to align common goals of both sectors into a whole child approach to education.
You see, it says the whole school, whole community, whole child, or WISC model is CDC's framework for addressing health in schools. And they will have medical clinics in schools. You talked about NGOs and partners coming in. They'll invite community.
Scary thought.
Oh, it's happening. They have a goal of 25,000 by 2025. Randi Weingarten and the NEA, they are pushing very hard for
Where are they at right now?
I don't know exactly the number where they are right now. It's happening all over the country, and there is no amount of money that will ever fill the need if schools are going to raise other people's children. And you just think about the disengagement of the parent, right? So they're lowering the ages of informed consent down to 12 in many states. And now you're going to have medical clinics in schools, and children will be able to give consent for their own medical care.
Wow.
Yeah.
So already, if I'm a kid, I'm confused because I saw that guy on TikTok. And I'm like, maybe I'm trans. Maybe I'm going through this. And then I go to my teacher and I say, I'm going through this, but I don't want my parents to know because I don't want them to do this, and that. And I'm living in a district or state that I don't necessarily have to disclose it to the parents. I can automatically choose to go through the procedure without revealing to the parents because I have this on the campus?
Yep. Yes. Oh, yes. And Planned
Who knows
Parenthood,
about this? Who knows about this?
Not enough people, but we have been screaming from the rooftops.
Rob, go a little bit higher because you got the 10 components. I want to see the other 2. No, right there, where you were at. Go lower. It says 10 components. Okay. Physical education, physical activity, nutrition, environment, services, health, education, social and emotional climate, physical environment, health services. So depends on what health services is, right? What falls under health service, counseling and psychological and social services. That's a scary.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.